Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. We're closing on show 1150 on cable TV here in Portland and Oregon and Salem since October of 1996. So we have a guest back on tonight, Mike Bifari, who is down in Argentina. He comes to us through the magic of the internet, and he'll be with us in just a moment. We also have an interesting hip news segment, so stay tuned as we bring on the infamous Nancy Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
Welcome back. Our first story tonight is from Oklahoma. Oklahoma voters will decide just next week, in a few days, on Tuesday, on a citizen-initiated measure, State Question 820, legalizing the adult use marijuana market. If approved, Oklahoma will become the 22nd state to regulate the use and sale of cannabis for adults. Voters' support for ending the failed policy of cannabis prohibition is bipartisan. Historically, when voters are provided the choice at the ballot box, they choose legalization and regulation. This has been the outcome not only in traditionally blue states like California and Oregon, but also in traditionally red states like Montana and Missouri. Advocates for State Question 820 last July turned in nearly twice the total number of signatures needed to qualify the initiative for the 2022 ballot. However, the Secretary of State's office took an excessive amount of time to ultimately verify the proponents' signatures. Opponents of the measure then filed a series of questionable legal challenges litigating various facets of the campaign, including the initiative summary language. Although the justices ultimately dismissed those challenges, they did so after the time elapsed for the state officials to include State Question 820 on Oklahoma's November printed ballots. In October, Republican Governor Kevin Stitt issued the executive proclamation calling for a special election to be held on Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. State Question 820 will be the only item on the ballot. State Question 820 permits adults to legally possess and home cultivate personal use quantities of cannabis while also establishing a licensed retail marketplace. Those with past marijuana convictions or those who are currently incarcerated for certain cannabis-related crimes would be able to petition the courts for either record expungement or resentencing consideration. According to a recently published economic analysis, excise taxes from retail cannabis sales will yield $434 million in new tax revenue for Oregon's coffers over a period of 4 years. Oklahomans previously voted in a special election in 2018 to legalize the cultivation and legal dispensing sale of medical marijuana in the state of Oklahoma. And it took off very quickly there. It is one of the premier medical marijuana programs. So this coming Tuesday, they'll be voting on full legalization. So stay tuned. We'll be back with more news on that next week. The next story is out of Albuquerque, New Mexico. Cannabis flowers with elevated levels of specific terpenes, or the aromatic hydrocarbons that give it the smell, are associated with greater perceived symptom relief, according to data published in the Journal of Cannabis Research. A team of researchers affiliated with University of New Mexico assessed consumers' perceptions of the efficacy of 633 distinct cannabis flower products. That must have been some test, huh? Study participants self-administered cannabis at home and reported symptom changes in real time on a mobile software application. The researchers then assessed trends between the flower's terpene content and their perceived effects. The investigators reported, quote, symptom relief was greatest after consumption of plant variants with slightly higher than average levels of terpenes, myrcene, and terpinolene, and non-detectable levels of CBD. In contrast, chemovars with any detectable level of CBD provided the least relief, the fewest positive side effects, and the most negative and context-specific side effects. So the CBD did not help, but the THC and the terpenes did. These findings are consistent with previous research showing that naturally abundant CBD in cannabis flower may act as an inhibitor of optimal treatment for certain health conditions. The authors concluded, quote, the index system described herein enables healthcare providers, patients, scientists, and cannabis retailers to easily categorize cannabis products based on measurable plant characteristics beyond THC and CBD in ways that systematically relate to differing levels of symptom relief and side effects reporting, end quote. Preclinical data demonstrate that select terpenes can modulate cannabinoid activity to produce enhanced therapeutic effects. A case report published late last year reported that an autistic patient responded more favorably to cannabis extracts containing select terpenes as compared to extracts without terpenes. This study, systematic combinations of major cannabinoid and terpene contents in cannabis flowers and patient outcomes, a proof of concept assessment of the Vigil Index of Cannabis Chemovars, appears in this month's edition of Journal of Cannabis Research. Our next story is from Italy. The twice daily use of THC dominant plant derived extracts is associated with symptom mitigation in patients with Alzheimer's disease, according to observational trial data published in the Italian journal La Clinica Terapeutica. Italian researchers assessed the safety and efficacy of cannabis extracts containing 22% THC and half of 1% CBD in 30 patients with mild to severe Alzheimer's disease. The study participants administered the extracts twice daily for 12 weeks. The investigators reported reductions in patients' agitation, apathy, irritability, sleep disturbances, and eating disturbances following cannabis treatment. They further acknowledged, quote, lower levels of physical and verbally aggressive behavior in all patients, end quote. 45% of the subjects experienced, quote, a significant decrease in cognitive impairment, end quote. None of the patients complained of any adverse side effects. All of the patients exhibited increased quality of life and a decrease in caregiver burden and cost of medical care and assistance. The authors concluded, quote, the results of our clinical trials suppose the effectiveness and in particular the safety of a natural CBD THC preparation in two main symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, agitation and weight loss, end quote. Prior trials have demonstrated the ability of both natural cannabis extracts and synthetic cannabinoids to mitigate various symptoms of Alzheimer's. Data has shown that both THC and synthetic THC agonists can modulate neuroinflammation and the formation of amyloid plaque in the brain, both of which are believed to play a key role in the development of autism disease. Alzheimer's disease. This study, oral THC, CBD, cannabis extract in main symptoms of Alzheimer's disease, agitation and weight loss, appears in this month's edition of the Italian journal La Clinica Terapeutica. Our last story tonight is from Cambridge, Massachusetts. Most Americans reject the idea of placing additional regulatory restrictions upon state legal marijuana industry, according to nationwide polling data compiled by the Center for American Political Studies at Harvard University. The pollsters asked respondents their feelings on the degree of regulations currently placed upon a variety of existing industries, including sellers of cryptocurrency, state-licensed marijuana producers, social media companies, coal manufacturers, and the makers of electric vehicles. 45% of the respondents said that the marijuana industry should be less regulated than it is now. 22% said the existing regulations were appropriate, and 33% opined for greater regulations. By contrast, the majority of respondents said they wanted additional regulations in place to protect consumers' online privacy and imposed upon the cryptocurrency market. The respondents were almost evenly split on the idea of whether government regulation in general either stifles economic innovation or growth, or whether it helps to grow the economy in a more equitable manner. Complete poll results are available from the Harvard CAPS, or Harris Polls. Well, that's the end of our Hemp News segment tonight. If you are a loved one or trying to find a doctor who can help you obtain your state's medical marijuana permit, you should call us. We have a list of doctors all over the country, and we can help you. Call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. If you have any other questions, you can call us too. So now we're coming on an interview with an old friend of mine, Mike Bifari. Mike is an Argentinian, lived here in the United States for about 10 years, and he is down in Argentina now. So we're going to interview him through the magic of the internet. So stay tuned and keep working to help us restore hemp. Good night. I would like to welcome back on the show my friend Mike Bifari down in Argentina. Mike has been a frequent guest and worked here in Oregon for a while, helping us with our cannabis legalization and festivals and medical cannabis gardens. But
most recently, I spent a week with Mike in Bangkok, Thailand, where we were both speakers for the Hemp International Expo in Bangkok, Thailand. It was also the second Hemp International Environmental Forum as
Yes,
well.
yeah. The
So it was great seeing
first
you
one,
there.
first one was in Kyoto, Japan, and 4 years ago, and then the second one was in Bangkok, Thailand. I'm really pleased and honored to be on the show, Paul. It's been so many years now that we met together on the front line of this legalization struggle, and we're still here. We're still going on, you know. So
That's true. We've done a lot of different events from all over South America. I know we both went to Colombia at the same time, but you
we've been to
introduced me
Peru.
to the Expo Hayes in Argentina back in 2015, and the Expo Cannabis in Montevideo,
In Chile,
Chile.
also.
That's the biggest one in South America. And
Yeah.
so we
Hmm.
spoke there. I think it was 2014 and 15 were the 2 years
Yeah.
we were there at those ones. I think 2015 was the last
Yeah.
time I went down to that one. But
But it was,
I was in a more uh I guess it's the northwest of Argentina in the state of Chaco in the
yes,
capital city, Resistencia. It was
yes.
December of 2021. And they put
Yeah,
on a
that was lovely, wasn't it?
that we both went to.
That was marvelous that you would be able to make it there. Such a remote place, you know.
Yeah, I flew in through the capital of Paraguay, and the borders were closed at the time because of the pandemic. There was one that was open in the far south, and we drove across, but I had to walk back across the border from Argentina to
Yeah.
Paraguay to get back for my flight home.
Yeah, I remember that was a whole adventure to get to the place. We flew from Buenos Aires, direct flight to Chaco, you know, to the Chaco capital, which is Resistencia. Resistencia is the capital of the province. And it's a very indigenous province, you know, but they're doing a good job in managing. You know, the governor is doing well. He's one of the best provinces in the statics, you know, of employment rate. And they've been very interested about the cannabis industry since the very beginning. And they allowed to make that fair where you were invited. And I believe that part of your ticket was bought by the government. So
Mm-hmm.
I think they're on board, you know.
That's great. I know the same fellow who put that on, Leandro. He's working on one outside of Buenos Aires for a couple months from now, I think.
Yes,
So
this is going to be in April in Mar del Plata, which is Mar del Plata is probably the third city in the country, the third one, you know,
I
or fourth. I'm not sure, but maybe fourth. They dispute the third place between Cordoba and Mar del Plata.
I see. And you're in Cordoba, is that
I'm in
right?
the province of Cordoba. I'm way up north, the province, you know, like I'm in the hills. There are two big ranges of mountains, the borderline with Chile, which is the pre-Andes, and then there's a small range of mountains, which is where I'm located. It's a small range of mountains. It's the first range of mountains if you go traveling towards the Andes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We
yeah.
we we've
I
done that trip together.
yeah. I rented a big van, and we got a couple people from Spain and our mutual friend
Here,
Chiri, your girlfriend at the time. We
yes.
we drove 5,000 kilometers, about 3,000 miles across Argentina into
Yes.
Chile, and then back across Argentina to Uruguay.
We were making this museum project for Senor Bunkers in Spain, you know, for the museum. We were making this documentary about the history of hemp in South America, especially Chile, because Chile is the big partner here. I mean, the big man. Chile is the biggest producer of hemp in the history of this South America. Yeah.
Yeah, we went to the Aconcagua Valley, the Central Valley there, and you had introduced the team to the indigenous cultivation that had gone on there since like 1535 or something, up
1545.
until 1972, when the
Exactly.
U.S. government backed the murder and overthrow of the Chilean president Salvador Allende
That's
and
true.
installed General Pinochet.
Yeah,
And I
that's
guess Kissinger gave
yes.
Pinochet a list of activists that America's CIA didn't like, and Pinochet killed all of those people. I think he
Yes,
killed about
absolutely.
40,000 people.
Yeah, it was a big massacre, like the rest of South America. With all these disappearances of people disappearing, these
Yeah,
military dictatorship. Those were the black days. The long
the
night
same
they call it.
happened there in Argentina on an
Yeah,
even
the same
larger
thing.
scale.
Same
A
thing. And
couple of years later,
we
it was like in 75 or something.
yeah, we have the name of there was a military. This is an interesting story I want to tell you if we have time. You
We
know,
got an hour.
there was a Chilean militar, that his name was Schneider. He was a German origin, right? And he was a colonel at the time, like at the beginning of the 70s. And these new communities like the hippies, they were going to these big plantations of hemp in the Aconcagua Valley, and a few of them maybe got in illegally inside the crop scene and stole stuff, but most of them were doing exchange. Like people were coming with loads of leather shoes, made in Chile, made in Santiago, and they were bringing boxes of leather shoes of different sizes to exchange with the workers of the fields. So they convinced the workers of the fields to go and bring in all what it was thrown on the ground, which was a part of the flowers of the hemp, you know. And so that's what we could consider that marijuana in the streets, by those days. It was a junky, horrible, a horrible material, but eventually that was what they had.
Yeah.
And the
They,
hippies the
we,
hippies went the hippies went there to make these exchanges. And so one night they got caught by the militaries. A whole bunch of hippies got caught inside a field by a military squad, in 1971 or so. And the commander of that squad was Colonel Schneider, right? So Colonel Schneider kept the hippies one night in jail, and then the next day he said, "Okay, you're allowed to go. You were we're just in private property, not doing nothing, so you can go home." Okay. So after several years, like in 1973, when the military coup against Salvador Allende took place, um, the Colonel Schneider was in those days. He was a general, right? And he was the general commander of Chile. He was in first place, putting in second place Pinochet, and he was assassinated by the CIA.
mm, I
So
see.
that same colonel that had this story with marijuana users, that he was not bad with them. He only took them. He could have killed the kids, but he did not. He took him to the local jail for one night, and this story was told to us by a man that was the owner, one of the family owners of this farm. Um, Senor, yeah, Alberto Galloso. So yeah, it's an interesting story because it ended up that this same military was assassinated by the CIA because he was in first place of Pinochet. So they took him aside. So Pinochet had all
I see.
the path for himself. You know what
Yeah,
I
he
mean?
was the most senior once they assassinated him.
Yes.
Yeah, they
And
didn't want that.
and he was the commander for Allende. Pinochet was the commander for Allende. So after that, he threw away Allende, you know. And after that, there were thousands and thousands of disappearances. And here in Argentina, in Brazil, in Uruguay, in different places, all the militaries got organized together in the whole South America and made a big genocide time, you know.
Yeah,
Very, very sad. But concerning pot, you know, after in 1973 in Chile, they finished legally the industrial hemp thing, um, because by those days, you know, in the beginning of the 70s, the industry was declining because of the nylon, you know. The, the hemp industry was declining concerning the fiber. They got really skilled at making, you know, long lasting fiber in Chile. Like in the 19th century, they were big, very big.
yeah,
They even went to contests, like in Great Britain, there were contests of strengthening the hemp rope, and Chile participated, as well as Spain and Russia. You know, they made these contests, and we also found an invoice of some Chilean producers buying hemp seeds from Winchester, Kentucky, in the United States, like in 1853.
yeah.
You know,
You did a lot of research, and that led to that
I
video.
did a lot.
Yeah, if we
Yeah.
got enough time, we might just run it. It's like an 8 minute intro. I know they talked about making it longer, but we've got an 8 minute uh, with subtitles, so our audience here can understand what's going on. So the last time we had you on, you were in your garden. It was a couple months before harvest. I guess it's about a year and a half ago, and uh,
Yes, we're legal now. You know,
yeah,
we're legal.
tell our audience what's happened there. I know you just had medical legalized, and now industrial hemp is opening up. Tell us how that happened.
Yeah, well, you know, I came back from the pandemic. I was in Colombia, working in Colombia, and I came back because of the pandemic. Um, I was working with our mutual friend Donnie Wershafter, which, if he listens, I send him a big hug. We made a guest house hotel museum in Colombia. I think that you were able to be there for a couple of hours.
Yeah, yeah, not
Uh,
that long, but I was there for about 10 minutes, but
okay,
it's not huge, so I saw most of it. Really nice route.
right.
It's nighttime, so they're in Toribio, which is an indigenous cannabis cultivating area. It's just surrounded by, it looks like a bunch of galaxies in space, but there are these little
Yes,
lights that are lit up because in Colombia, the days are always 12 hours long and the nights are always 12 hours long. And that makes it
yeah,
flower. And so if you, by putting these artificial lights on the plants just at sunset and sunrise, giving it a longer day period, that would stop it from flowering. So the plants could grow a lot bigger. And so you see,
yeah. Basically, they do it for the size, because as soon as you put them in the field, they start flowering small.
yeah, yeah, you'll have a flower harvested that's maybe a foot tall.
Yeah, but our concern with that issue, my problem with it, with that, is that, you know, you don't want to make an ecological disaster like turning in 60,000 operations at the same time all night long, you know, or turn them at the same time, turn them all on at the same time, could blow up your transformers. You know what I mean? And so we've been struggling with this issue, telling them that they don't really have to have the lights continually for 24 hours. They can, you know, use a period of 2 or 3 hours during the night, and just that would molest the flowering period to stop, and keep on
Yeah.
vegetating.
And so mainly we're talking about Colombia, though. Most people don't realize you're in Argentina.
Yeah.
Colombia is about halfway between us. You know,
Yes.
you're as far south from the equator as I in Oregon am as far north. So we both
Yeah. That's
have
why.
the same
That's why.
latitude.
That's why. That's why hemp is more important here in my country than in Colombia.
Yeah, yeah.
Because well, the story is that I was in Cali, and I came back to Argentina, and this was 3 years ago. I came back in March 2020, and I started to collaborate with the current government, about hemp. We made a workshop, and we made, not only me and some other people that were advising the government, but mainly here from Cordoba. There's a agriculture engineer, which is Diego Bertoni, which is a cannabis activist, and myself. We both were invited by the government to give a speech through a Zoom conference for 30 government officials.
Uh-huh.
So after 1 year and a half, because there was a decree against Cáñamo, against the Cáñamo, there was a decree from the military dictatorship. So the government says, okay, we take out the decree and we're allowed to plant Cáñamo again, right? And so they studied the whole situation. They said to us, no, you guys wait a few months because we're going to make a bill and we're going to pass a new law. But then it's because they mixed this Cáñamo thing with the regular medical marijuana bill. They mixed both. So after 1 year and a half, now they created the ARICAME. The ARICAME is a cannabis institute created by the United Nations to control the production of psychoactive cannabis, that you're going to export.
Okay.
So every country that has to export or it's willing to export psychoactive cannabis has to have an institute regulated and monitored by the United Nations. So the new law made the institute and made standards for medical cannabis in big scale production, and also made the cáñamo, the cáñamo law. And it's if you see, the laws are okay. They're designed for both of the industry, the big ones and the little ones as well. There's many little ones, many cooperatives of 50 farmers, 100 farmers or so, and everybody slowly are getting on board. For example, we're making our first testings of of hemp varieties, in the south of the province of Buenos Aires. The province of Buenos Aires here in Argentina is very big. It's bigger than France,
Okay.
and down south, which is like entering the Patagonia, we have about 1,000 hemp plants growing for seeds.
Mm-hmm.
And this is our first experience, so we're kind of excited about it. We're going to harvest the first week or second week of April. We don't know yet, because that's the time to harvest here in the south. Like you put the seeds at the end of September, maybe early November, and then at the beginning of February,
They start to flower.
the flowering starts, and they start to
Injectable.
stretch out. They stretch out very badly. I mean, good, and yeah, and then the first end of March, you have to be aware that they might be a good time to harvest. But then for smoking, mainly the hybrids, they take it like the second week of April.
Like we're the second week of October.
Yeah.
So it's the exact opposite on the opposite side of
Yes.
the equator, of course.
Exactly. So we're very excited about this hemp project. I wanted to do it this last year. I wanted to do it in 4 places. I got to do it in 2. in La Plata and in this place called Ludo. People can check it out. Ludo is in the province of Buenos Aires, way down south, and very interesting. And we're very excited about the whole thing. For us, it's new, even that we've had hemp in the past. Until the militaries made this decree in 1977, we had hemp for a few years, maybe from the 30s up to 1973, 72. We have big hemp, 250 hectares of hemp.
That's a lot. So yeah, a hectare is about 2.2 acres.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
So you've recently started a new website. I know it's mikebifari.com. You're reaching out
Yes.
for sponsorship, and what other projects are you trying to
Well,
get backing for?
well, up to now, I want to do a podcast, through the web page, and up to now, every sponsor that we have that join us on board, we're gonna interview them. And some of the sponsors are these old folks from the cannabis movement that we're so proud of being in connection with them. Like for example, Mila Hansen. You know who is Mila?
Yeah, we
Mila is
traveled through Peru
Mila is a
just in
yeah, it's an open.
October. No,
It,
yeah.
it's the open door for all this new type of extractions of varieties of cannabis around South America. She's making her dabadoo,
Hold on.
starting from Miami, Florida.
Your
Starting from
video,
Miami.
I didn't know if it had happened for Bill, but your video has frozen for us.
Okay, so what I was saying is, each sponsor of the web page will have a special interview with a podcast camera and all that. What we're doing basically now for your show, and I want to have these people that have been, on the front line for so many years, like a person like you. You're on the list of being interviewed as well.
Okay.
And I want Mila to be there. I want Donnie Wershafter to be there. Maybe Jorge Cervantes, Ben Drunkers, Andrea Herman, Sergey, all people from around the world, from the hemp movement and from the cannabis movement. People here in South America will be delighted to meet those people, to know those people, and to learn. So basically, the web page is going to be educative with an education purpose, and also to make us grow. Because with each sponsorship, we grow a little bit, and we're able to maintain ourselves and to do more for the research of the plant. And I'm a fanatic of researching on the plant all the time. So we've been searching for all medical jars. We've been searching for, rest of cannabis industry tools that they used in the old days. So here we are doing a lot, and the web page is new, so people can also download the books I have. I have one book already there, and the next one is going to be there probably in 2 months.
You just
You
got
know,
it translated to English too. It was originally
yes,
just in Spanish, which obviously
yeah,
is the language of Argentina and a
yeah.
lot of the rest of the world.
Yeah, and the good thing, you can download it from the web page, the ebook.
And so your website is mikebifari.com.
Yeah, .com. Yeah.
That's MikeBifari.com. And so
And people can go to the different web pages of the sponsors. I have the museum from Barcelona, which is a marvelous, marvelous ride around the web page with all. It's like being there. It's actually very nice to see it. And also Mr. Don Wershafter's webpage of the Ohio, the cannabismuseum.com.
we had
Yeah,
Don finally a few weeks ago.
yeah, it's very impressive.
He wouldn't interview for so long, but finally he's come out of his shell, and
the work he's done there is very impressive. So
yeah.
So I'm very proud to have those two on my webpage, and also some locals, some like this new, because we have a medical law here, and like about 250,000 of patients in the whole country. So they are allowed to have 9 plants per residence flowering, and a not determined amount of plants in a vegetative stage. So, from those 250,000, we have thousands and thousands of small growing operations, but we also have what
When
they
did,
are
when did
emerging. What
medical, yeah, when did medical become legal there? It's only been like 2 years, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So you've gone from 0 to 250,000 in 2 years. That's
Yeah,
pretty good. How many people are in Argentina altogether? It's like 90 million.
40 million,
How many?
48 million.
48 million. Okay. So you've got already about 0.5% of all the people in the country are
Yeah, 250,000. So what the point is that from those 250,000, they are organization emerging from there. Like for example, patients clubs,
right.
and I was invited to a couple of patient clubs in Buenos Aires, and let me tell you this. Let me share this with you, Paul. I've been to California, I've been to Oregon, I've been to New York, I've been to Miami, I've been in Barcelona and Amsterdam. But the quality
And
that
Bangkok. You're in
yeah,
Bangkok.
the quality I saw and I experienced in these clubs in Buenos Aires is at the highest level. Highest level.
Good.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. Absolutely incredible.
Okay.
I tasted, tasted. Of course, they are California strains, but they grow it in indoors in these big salons, very technical, supervised. It remind me like we saw Sensi Seeds facility, It's exactly like Sensi Seeds facilities, or maybe the type of facility that you yourself used to have in the old days when we were working there in Oregon. Something really neat and really be taken care with
Yeah.
all the measures,
We had our
with all the
indoors and our several outdoors, but all of our clones were supplied from our indoor garden in Portland.
yeah, and especially what has to do with the post harvesting. The post harvesting is as important as putting a seed
Oh
or
yeah.
putting a clone.
You have to dry it
And
properly and cure it to be able to have a good product in the end. That is just as important.
exactly. Here in the region where I am, it's more like California, like some places of California that's very dry. From one hand, you have it's positive because you don't have plagues. There's just a little plagues when it's dry. Especially when you have more humidity, you have to deal with
Mold.
with these wars against these bio
Yeah, mold and mildew.
exactly. So I'm very happy to be where I am. I chose this place like about 30 years ago. We came with my family. We're in a hippie neighborhood, but it's well organized. We have our own water system, apart from the town. We're 3 kilometers from the main town, and we have our own water system. So I established my house here with my daughters like 30 years ago. And now finally we have an organization that it's legal to grow pot, and we have an association and a cooperative, cooperative for growing medical cannabis, for these people that are in the ReproCan, which is the what we call the medical record system, where you're allowed to grow these 9 plants. So you're allowed to grow the plants, and you're also allowed to go to a place like these clubs that we were talking about and buy high quality pot in these places, which are
What's the name of your club?
uh, our name of our club is it's another club. It's an association, right?
The association.
Akukan. Akukan. Yeah. If you enter the webpage, we have a logo that drives you directly to Akukan. Basically, it's a group of ladies taking care of Akukan.
I got to meet your daughter there in the state of Chaco at Resistencia. Antonia,
Yeah, Antonina.
she's
Antonina.
a leader, obviously, in the cannabis industry. You've raised her right, I think. I
Yeah.
know you've three daughters. One of them's an accomplished violinist, and but it seems like Antonia has followed in her father's footsteps, and
That's
now
true.
being out
I
there.
have I have Antonina, and the second one is Yana. Yana is a grower expert. She's a grower expert.
Ah,
She has a little pot farm, and she's part of the association and the organization. And her fiance, which is my son-in-law, he has gone to California several times to work on the trimming process. So he knows the industry. So we'll build, bit by bit, step by step, we're building up a team here to take care of all the production matters. And I'm very proud and very happy about it, really. So if people want to learn about what we're doing, they have to go to the webpage and check us out. And
Mike
it-
Bifari.
you know, every,
It's kind of
yeah,
your name
every time.
sounds like Rastafari. So you were destined to be Bifari the Rastafari. That's going to be your new nickname, Bifari the
Yeah,
Rastafari.
well, many of Argentinians, we come from Italy.
Yeah,
Miss with the long B, it has, of course, it has uh, out of, um, how do you say it? In there, uh, Arabic, because the,
yeah, like
the south,
Arabic. Yeah,
yeah, the south of Italy was conquered by Arab countries for centuries. So the,
yeah.
the the long B comes from there, but we're from the south of Italy. By at for example, 1890 here in Argentina, there were more Italians than Spanish. There were like about 1.5 million Italians. And by those days, at the beginning of the 20th century, the Italian family used to discuss where should we go, to New York or to Buenos Aires. I mean, Buenos Aires was that second option, which for many people was as good as New York in those days.
Yeah, well, they're a lot the same. They're huge. They have their own art center, theater.
Yeah.
They're very similar in that regard.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. In Buenos Aires, you can find, like 30 or 40 cultural events, programming schedules for you to choose, including tango and all that. It's
I
nice.
know you're
I
a
like
master
Buenos
of
Aires.
tango. You were
Buenos
trying
Aires,
to teach that Japanese lady in Bangkok a few
you like that.
months ago.
You like
The
that, don't
tango.
you? My
Yeah,
dad.
that was that. I've got pictures. I think I might even have a video, but we
You,
won't subject our audience to that.
you
I'm
should
thinking
share.
about.
You should share your videos if you have those.
I will. I'll send them to you through the internet here. We'll talk about that.
Yeah,
Then you can use them as you like. I've got tons, of course. You know me.
sure.
But on your website, I noticed that your face looks like the sun. Someone has done an illustration of your face that looks like you're the sun and you're shining your light down on the website. He must have done that on purpose, right?
Yeah, they did it on purpose.
So I noticed immediately a similarity with an American PBS show for children called the Teletubbies.
Yeah.
And the Teletubbies also have a little baby in the sun, and they look just like you. I don't know why I'm bringing
Yeah.
that up, but there you have it. You could be a Teletubby, Mike. But
Appreciate that.
it's MikeBifari.com. So tell us about the are there any more changes on the horizon for adult use or recreational cannabis
I
in Argentina? And let's talk about what's happened to our friend Lupo in Montevideo, Uruguay. Uruguay
Yeah.
is a small country, and it's just on the other side of this big river delta the Rio de Plata that is on the other side. So Lupo was, even though we think marijuana was legalized in Uruguay back in 2012, it hasn't been really legalized. And our friend Lupo has been arrested there for a little store that he operated in the capital, Montevideo. So
Right, this is correct. So what was the first thing you were talking about? The first thing was um, before Lupo, before the Lupo Uruguay issue. You were talking something else, right?
yeah, I wish I could rewind, but I can't. So
Okay.
it was about
That's,
Argentina, though,
yeah.
was what I and we were talking about how Argentina, Buenos Aires is a lot like New York City.
Yeah, and concerning the laws, I think you asked if we had any step forward concerning recreational.
Exactly, that's what it
We
was.
do, they are discussing about it, but this new law, which is the 23669, that has to do with big operations of medical cannabis and also cáñamo, hemp. Uh, they created this institute I mentioned you before, and I believe that inside the institute we have people there. Like one of the secretaries is our friend. He is the president of the INASE, which is the Institute of the Seeds. Argentina has a big seed history because they export a lot of agriculture products. So
Yeah,
it,
soybeans. There's so much soybeans
yeah,
growing
it's
there. You're one of the world's
the
largest producers
third
of
producer
soybeans.
in the world. Yeah. So because of this, the INASE is very important, and the INASE is registering the seed varieties now, the cannabis seed varieties. So
Oh, so you can only grow approved varieties.
yes, so you can grow from all the ones that are inscribed. They are being commercialized now. You can deal with them. All the seats that are in the list at the INASE are allowed to be sold and bought for any citizen who is inside the ReproCan, which we already have 250,000. They say, I want to be free. I don't want to say that I have an illness or go through, put an outfit of a patient, which I'm not really. And I believe that you already heard this type of arguments and this type of discussions in your long life activist life on this
Yeah,
issue.
yeah.
But you know what I'm trying to say. But I believe that if the door was completely closed for all of us, and we can manage to open it a little bit with a medical purpose, which nobody can be denied of, I think it's positive because we advance in legality, we advance in a whole bunch of creating new jobs and new occupations for a large amount of people. So I think it's so important. But many people discuss this that, like, I don't want to be labeled as a patient. I want my freedom, and we all want
Run
that.
into that
We all want
every
that. Of
state.
course, we all want that. But in the meantime, life goes past very fast. And in the meantime, we need the medicine. And we don't want to go to jail. We don't want to go to jail. You know.
Well, I'm glad you're able to finally supply it medicinally here just in the past couple of years. We are almost out of time. And you want to talk about
Yes,
Lupo for just a moment?
yes. Free Lupo for everybody that's watching the show. Lupo is a long time activist, long life activist. He's a brother. He's been completely, made they made a trick on him. They trick on him. There was this operation from the south of the country of Uruguay, a place called Colonia, a small little town. There's this prosecutor that went nationwide in 250 operations in different places. And they said that these 250 operations were linked one to each other. And 50 persons ended up being responsible for these 250 operations. according to the prosecutor, are being linked together. But the truth is, it's a big lie. Lupo was not linked to those 250 because Uruguay is such a small little country that Lupo was in several of those people's agenda, which doesn't mean nothing. They met from other cannabis events. They know each other, but that doesn't mean they were working together. So in the 250 busted that they made, they found a couple of weapons, old weapons, and Lupo was in the headlines of all that operation, and he has nothing to do with that. I want to clean his name here, and he only had cannabis, and he loves, because he is a cancer surviving patient, and he had a lot of hashish. He had like half kilo of hashish, which for him is not that much. He smokes every day, all day, and maybe, yeah, I can admit that maybe he sold to some tourists. What's the big deal? They've been having legalization for pot, and the tourists are not allowed to buy. Tourists are not allowed to buy in a ridiculous measure. Such a ridiculous measure, because Uruguay made a big advertisement of themselves legalizing pot for the rest of the world. Hey, we're here, we're Uruguay, we're legalizing, come over and see us. So many companies went to produce to Uruguay, and now they have these pharmacies and they have these clubs, but the private clubs, there are people from the cannabis movement. They don't have the protection from the state government. People are being robbed, the clubs are being robbed, they don't have the protection. Many of them have closed, and just a few have, the valuable thing to be able to export to Switzerland, some CBD flowers. And this is really what's going on. It's really sad, because a person like Lupo that made a marvelous store concerning hemp, with hemp and a real hemp store with a whole bunch of hemp products, like fiber products, clothing, creams, vegetables, all type of
store Cannabis Protectio, and that's the
Protectio, and they closed it up. It's closed. It's closed.
Yeah.
Lupo is in jail. Lupo is a cancer survival, So it's really sad, and I want everybody should know about it. We should make something more that we're doing now, maybe, to do a international petition to the authorities. So we should be doing something for him. When I say this, what people tell me in response is that we still have too many of them in prison. We still have many good people that, innocent people that had never harmed anybody, that had just had this passion for cannabis, so unjustly imprisoned now. They gave him 26 months, imagine, for a person that's over 60 years old. It's a lot.
Yeah, that's crazy. Well, free
Lupo.
Free Lupo.
Yeah.
You and I made Mila and Don and Teresa in Peru. Well, maybe we'll drop that in there too. And the other one. Is there anything you want to say in closing, Mike?
I send a big hug to all the followers, to you and Trisha and Bill, and you're always in my heart. You've been an inspiring for many of us here in the South, and I hope we keep on seeing each other once in a while in some part of the world where they want us to talk about cannabis and hemp and marijuana. I love it.
I look forward to it. We've had Mike Bifari down in Cordoba, Argentina, and you'll be back on some future shows, I'm sure. Thank you, Mike, and keep working to restore
hemp. Download my book so you can support us here in the region.
MikeBifari.com.
Thank you.
Somos un movimiento joven. Hemos nacido hace más de una década. Realmente nos hemos nutrido de todo lo que acá ha empezado hace bastante tiempo y estamos luchando nos hemos sumado a la lucha de la reivindicación en la prohibición de la planta de cannabis. En nuestro caso, los gobiernos están siguiendo las normas internacionales que los gobiernos federales de este país imponen. Estos mismos gobiernos a nosotros nos han metido en colapsos económicos, en dictaduras militares que nos han traído desapariciones y muertes a más de una generación. Y estamos aquí para dejar este mensaje, para poder seguir adelante, para decirles a todos ustedes que cada vez que un Estado vota a favor de la legalización, está dejando en falta al mismo gobierno federal que nos impone en todo el globo la prohibición. Entonces lo deja en falta y cada vez ganamos más terreno. Así que venimos a apoyarlos y darles gracias.
Okay. So basically, what you guys do here has a global impact. What you guys legalize here, Colorado, Washington, Alaska, and Oregon, is a huge, huge impact for the rest of the world. The federal government sets a policy, and it's followed by every single country. So it's important. We came here to say thank you for this counterculture that all these years you guys have fight so bad, had struggled so badly, and this is the result. The result is that we're changing the world with cannabis. And now we want to encourage you to keep on the hard work because it's not done yet. We haven't finished yet. We need to finish prohibition. Prohibition is still incarcerating innocent people in my country, like 20,000 per year for nothing, just for consuming this miracle herb, this healing herb. So I want to thank all the pioneers here that made this possible, that have been educating us all these years. Jack Herrera, Don Shafter, Paul Stanford, Jorge Cervantes, Ed Rosenthal, Mickey Norris, Chris Conrad. Those are our heroes. We follow them. Thank you for the culture. Thank you for constructing this bridge over to South America and to the rest of the world. We want to liberate the plant to heal the sick and to heal this world. Thank you. We say no to Monsanto over there in Argentina. We see it at first hand what they're doing with their chemicals and with their GMO. So we say no to Monsanto. We say yes to life. Yes to life. Yes to la vida. Thank you, Seattle. Thank you, America. Keep on the hard work. Free Eddie Lep. Thank you.
Hasta la victoria, siempre. Mucho voto para mí, para ti. Thank you, Mike Bifari.